Okay.
This is Nigel McGuinness, Ring of Honor superstar, and you are listening to Retro Unlim Radio. Stay tuned, wankers.
Oh, yeah, with the sound and the fury. It's another edition of the Slamcast, live on the Retro Unlim YouTube channel, wherever we are. I don't even know where we are anymore. I am your host, Brandon Liggian. I am joined by Michael Burhan. Dave Wade is on the program as well. We also got Miguel Leon. We're here, man. We're talking wrestling on a Friday night. Join us live on RetroUnlim.com. and all sorts of outlets wherever you might be listening to this if you're not listening to a live version of the show. Again, welcome to Slamcast. I am your host, Brandon Liggian. My tag team partner, as always, Mr. Michael Burhan.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, of course. And for tonight's show, we've got some loads of breaking news. Miguel's got some little bit of trivia news there for us as well. And of course, as you heard, we have a rather snazzy new intro by Mr. Nigel McGuinness.
Super snazzy. We feel
and
legitimate
I fucking missed
now.
it.
It's okay. We'll play it again, I'm sure, at the end. But that's all that's happening. Nick Harakchik, late to the program, fashionably late as always.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, buddy. We're not judging you. No one knows the difference.
That's my job normally, I believe.
I'm gonna de-push him, especially when he gets injured. I'll de-push him.
He's gonna have to.
Yeah, I try to get over on my own. I'm like Zack Ryder.
Yeah, no, we don't like that here. We don't like you getting over on your own. I'm gonna.
We're gonna job you out on Burhan and the boy.
Yeah, we're gonna job you out. We're gonna go and put you where careers deserve to die. You know, and we'll put you on kind of the 5 a.m. shift on your own show. We'll call it Nick Harachek's Talk Radio, and if you dare get over, we're just gonna release you. If you want to push, we'll just push you off a fucking cliff. That's what we'll do. You fucking.
Oh man.
Speaking of guys who deserve pushes, do we want to get into a bit of news that I just recently uncovered on the Twitter feed?
We teased it at the top of the program. I think we should get right into it. Why don't you just drop that headline for us there?
Because this one's going to be funny. You guys are going to like this one. And Nick, you just came in, so you didn't hear what it was, and neither did
I took
Dave. Okay. There's a certain somewhat famous internet company that has reached out to Dolph Ziggler asking if he would be willing to wear their logo and if they could sponsor them. Can you guys take a guess as to what internet company that might be?
They're probably very similar to him, so they're show-offs. As in they
show off many things. Many things. Anybody want to take another guess?
Things aren't exactly what they seem.
No. I think it's best that we let people know. Brazzers, the famous internet adult video company, has actually reached out to Dolph Ziggler March 13th, 2015, at Heel Ziggler. Can we make you some Brazzers tights and you can wear them on #Raw, #BrazzersMania. That's what was tweeted out to Dolph Ziggler from the official Brazzers Twitter.
Did he reply? Please God, did he reply?
Let's see.
Is that allowed though? I mean, I know you're not going to see shit on it, but it's still an adult company, so is that, would that be allowed?
That would be so fucking hilarious if the WWE. It'd be funny if they did what they did with CM Punk, what Punk alleged they did, which is they're like, you don't want Dolph Ziggler, you want Sheamus. You want Sheamus to wear your brother's tights.
Oh God.
Supposedly one of the reasons they're doing this is because they've noticed an upswing of customers due to the WWE Brazzers cross promotion with people putting Brazzers logos on wrestling memes. So they're supposedly trying to capitalize on this, and they figured Dolph Ziggler would be the best one to capitalize on. And you know what, man? If this were 2000, I could see this happening, and it would be awesome.
No, you don't want Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
You want Ryback. You know, he says feed me more. That would definitely.
Oh,
definitely
fuck.
They want Big Show, Sheamus, Ryback, and Nikki Bella.
all in that order. Big Show, Ryback, and Sheamus in Nikki Bella.
Oh.
Oh, God.
I'd be willing to watch that at least once.
It would be wholly leading to the word total
Cena
diva.
wouldn't allow it.
Grown.
Cena goes, Cena will come in the end of it and go, I always go in last.
Oh, grown.
And I'm not putting you over.
Oh, grown.
Oh god, there's so many. There's so many.
Jesus.
We could just say.
I mean, this was inevitable, really. I mean, as soon as the Brazzers thing gained any sort of traction of popularity, I think it was only a matter of time before they reached out. I'm pretty sure they have actually tweeted wrestlers before, but I think this is the first time they've actually offered direct sponsorship to a guy before. Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, this would happen, but I mean. Not in today's World Wrestling Entertainment, folks. I'm sorry. Dream all you want, but
bring back the Godfather and just have him with all the fucking like porn logos on him. They
No.
tried something similar. Pornhub tried something similar with YouTubers, as they wanted YouTubers to basically promote their content. And I remember JonTron tweeted them back and said, "I'm totally up for this. This is probably not This is not the worst idea in the world. I'm sure this is going to take off." Sarcastically.
Dude, I would look. I'm all up for keeping up the sanctity of Retro Unlim, but I'd slap a few Pornhub ads onto my videos. I don't care. It's free money, dude.
Dude, I was saying this about ECW.
Yeah.
I did a post once in the Blue Moon for Wrestle Ramblings talking about how ECW could have went in a different direction in terms of promotion, like with porn companies and beer companies, just basically more adult-orientated sponsorship, and they could have done the same thing as the WWE. But sponsored the company in a different direction, and it doesn't have to be a family-orientated product. WWE could do what they want to do with this and go in that direction, but the problem is they couldn't do it in the current WWE product. If that makes sense. It would have to. They would
Is there
actually.
Is there a rule book on sponsorship? You know, kind of like there are in other sports, where you can't have tobacco, you can't have alcohol. Can you have gambling?
No. Well, the way it works in WWE is you can't have sponsors unless WWE allows you to, and you would have to have the sponsors go through WWE in order for you to be able to. It's the same problem that CM Punk had when he had several sponsors wanting to sponsor him when he was at his peak, and WWE wouldn't allow them. In fact, I think they even cock-blocked him kind of with Slim Jim, I remember, where they sent other representatives to sponsor Slim Jim instead of CM Punk, which Slim Jim had asked for CM Punk specifically. So even if WWE were willing to make the deal, which no, they won't. It's like what we said with
Hell no.
It's like what Burhan said. If they did, they wouldn't send Dolph Ziggler. They'd be like, let's send some real stars out there. Let's send Zack Ryder, the Matadors, and Rosa Mendez.
Well, they probably wouldn't go to that level.
They'll be like the Matadors. Oh God.
They'll be like
that would equal bestiality because you got the little fucking ball.
Yeah, they'll be like, let's send all these other people, and you know what? As a joke, they probably would even send Hornswoggle. It's basically one of those things where. They wouldn't give it to the person that the guys are aiming for at all because they don't believe they know who they want to draw, and that's the thing that I find a big issue in this whole scenario. I find it hilarious, but truthfully, I think they could make a lot. The current product isn't the way that the company should do it. They will, if Vince does it, they would have to set up a whole new brand just for that.
Yeah, and by the way, going back to what you said about the ECW working with the adult film industry in that regard, they kind of did that with XPW, and I remember it not ending too well.
No,
I believe they got into a lot of trouble.
Well, they didn't get in trouble for the content or the product. They not got in trouble for the wrestling product. It's because Rob Black, the guy who owned XPW, basically was making snuff films. He was a porn entrepreneur.
Oh.
His company made tons of different porno movies. I actually own a few of them, believe it or not.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, not the snuff movies. I own some of their lighter stuff because I was kind of obsessed with Lizzie Borden. I had a huge thing with her. And
I'm sure it's huge.
But I'm sure. And with her, she basically was... She did a film where she used to do a lot of anal porn. So, I kind of watched a lot of that. But when...
You're a dirty man, Burhan.
Oh, I'm just I'm a hot-blooded male who does a lot of hand shandies. But in the whole retrospective to the thing, he got closed down not due to the fact that he had ties to the adult industry. It's because he was an adult industry professional making... Literally, the hardcore matches they were doing was similar to CZW. Where it was ultra violent. It went too far. They took what ECW had and they went overboard with it. Even hiring guys from ECW like Shane Douglas and stuff to come over into the company.
The Sandman, New Jack, Vic Grimes.
And then they had Big Pogo and guys. They went overboard with it, and the company was literally... They had some good matches, but the company was just one big eyesore in terms of what they were promoting. And they wanted to get this, the state that they were working in, they wanted to get rid of him as much as they could. So they ended up seizing all the assets due to criminal activity, which was the snuff films. The snuff films never went through, because the thing is, people don't know actually, adult movies have to go through like several different boards to see that they're deemed appropriate. To be...
And not that I've ever watched any, but that would be that certification thing at the start when it goes, this movie meets the requirements of so-and-so under US law.
They have a
Bert told me that because I don't watch porn.
They have a government body that basically specifies these can be released. If it's too much, if it's to the point where it's extremely sick content, they won't put it out there. You can get away with that a little bit because of the internet now. So whatever's too hard to put on DVD, they can put it online, and subscribers can watch because you're exclusively... It's not free content. It's not all over the place. You subscribe to a website in order to see this content, so it's kind of dedicated content to those subscribers. The whole issue with that and the whole understanding was they threw this content out there and didn't give a fuck, to the point where they got sued. They got fined, and Rob Black even went to jail over it. So there you go. There's a bit of history there, guys, from your professional wrestling. Michael Burhan, not just a pretty face.
And speaking of independent wrestling and whatnot, that brings us into our second bit of news before we get into our main event. We should talk about the Kimberly Chris Dickinson incident. Not even an incident, and I'm going to get more into this in a bit. Basically what happened was there's a promotion called Beyond Wrestling, and they had a show recently where one of the main matches was Kimberly versus Chris Dickinson. These are two independent wrestlers. It was an intergender matchup, and supposedly, and I've seen the footage, what happened was Chris Dickinson went for a flying cross powerbomb and was a little bit sloppy with it. Very sloppy, actually. She kind of landed wrong, and it was a rough move. But essentially, she ended up being fine. In fact, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But supposedly, this caused a firestorm on the internet from those kinds of people. You know,
well, it wasn't the high cross powerbomb that I think that did it. I think it was the first what got a lot of people's initial reaction to the clip was the chair shot that she took, because he over his head swung it, and he definitely blurred the line.
One of the back chair shots. This was actually like a over the head.
Oh, this was over the head, downward 12-6 motion to the back.
Did she get her hands
head.
up? Because I think I might have missed that.
I don't remember, but it was not. It was a pretty brutal chair shot as far as chair shots go.
That you can't have men and women competing in the same match.
This is something that, and I will. Kimberly is a. I'm pretty sure they're dating. I don't really I haven't talked to Dunn in a while, but last time I was. I'm pretty sure that this was done to set up some sort of feud between Team Pazuzu and my good friend Mr. JT Dunn, because the way like that segment was done was, absolutely, it was absolutely Angle. Yes, it was a little harsh, but I think it was a good angle for my friend to get over. I selfishly wish he was did it a little formed a little better in that situation. I mean, someone hits your kayfabe girlfriend over the head with a chair, and there is no one there restraining him. He doesn't.
Let's also give the devil his due. It wasn't a steel chair. It was actually a plastic chair. It was one of those, right. like a lawn chair. And I just saw the clip, and it's a bit brutal. I will say this, but what really got me was the whole. We're in a very weird period right now. We have a very overly pro-feminine movement going on here with the internet. I'm sure if you're a gamer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And with the whole Give Divas a Chance thing, I'm starting to see that kind of move into here. And with the whole Kimberly thing, this was just prime targeting for these people to start coming out and going off against Chris Dickinson and Beyond Wrestling and basically taking them to task, to the point to where Kimberly even had to put out a video saying, no, everything's fine. I'm okay. It was an angle. We planned this out. Everything was fine. I got looked at by the doctors just for safety's sake, but I'm good, and I'll be coming back as soon as possible, which that to me was a little bit upsetting, because it's kayfabe, you guys. It's not supposed to be real.
No. Yeah, no, that's one of the things where the wrestling or the internet is like killing the wrestling business, because it absolutely kills reactions. It's like this. If this was done in 1994, like during the magazine era, there would have been 3 months where Kimberly would have been walking around in a neck brace.
He would have been arrested because
because they wouldn't have had any proof. There wouldn't be video of it, I guess you could say, or there wouldn't be streaming video of it. It would just be a grainy VHS camcorder. But it's things like that where internet is killing the wrestling business, because again, it totally kills any momentum that they gained from this angle going forward. Leaving having Dunn versus Dickinson and company.
I mean, it's unfortunate that they even have to defend themselves in this, in this day and age. I mean, listen, people, there are women's wrestlers out there that do some really heinous stuff. I mean, I remember she used to wrestle for TNA, but I went back and looked at some of her old footage. You remember Mickey Knuckles when she was in TNA? She was wrestling as Moose. Go back and watch some of her videos. She is brutal, man. She tears people up. I mean, there was one, I forget. I forget who else. I mean,
my biggest drawback about Moose is they really didn't take her indie name or her former name into account and call her Moose Knuckles, but
Yeah, eventually they did, because I do remember her being listed on the official TNA website as Moose
Knuckle. Oh
yeah.
No.
TNA.
No.
But my point is, listen. There are women out there that do some really heinous things to themselves, and they're perfectly fine. It's just it is what it is. This isn't ballet. It amazes me that the internet wrestling community, of all people, had to be the white knights in this one and be like, oh, we need to protect Kimberly. How dare they put her in that situation?
No, I think it's the internet wrestling community having a bit of a hard-on for Kimberly, because they see, attractive woman who wrestles. They think maybe there's a chance. But you've got
the whole ECW and the 15-year-old kid thing.
Yes.
I think that's kind of what
this isn't quite as bad as the mass transit situation, but yes, comparatively, it's similar.
A woman versus a man in a hardcore match. You don't.
Yes, that's where I take the problem with right there. Yeah. See, I mean, I have no problem with Kimberly wants to get in there. I respect her choice.
Yeah.
As a wrestling fan, I respect her as her athletic ability, but if I'm wearing my Booker hat, I don't understand intergender wrestling. I really don't.
Especially in that sort of thing, it's retarded. And the
exactly.
being,
I can suspend disbelief for a lot of things, but it made me call. I don't want to be like labeled as part of the He-Man Woman Haters Club, but it's just a physics. There's no. Ronda Rousey could not knock out the most like weakest low class MMA fighter. It's a matter of the physicality between men and women. I don't believe
Ronda Rousey versus Brock Lesnar. That's what you.
Exactly. I don't believe that there's no woman alive, I think, that could make beating up a man in an athletic competition look, plausible. Or a wrestling match, at least, look plausible.
No, I agree, and that's the thing here. I'm not angry about the situation. It's just, if you're suspending disbelief for a second, if a guy ends up, like, with the laws that are going on currently of man versus women and spousal abuse, you can get arrested if your partner says that you've abused her, right?
Well,
there don't have to be a mark on there. And when you bring that into that wrestling ring, people are gonna. It's not the fact that people are gonna be uncomfortable. You're doing something where you're with the intention that if people sees it, if they believe it beyond kayfabe, that dude's gonna get arrested because he's brutally beaten up a woman and smacked her over the head with a freaking steel chair. It's something that you don't do. From a booker standpoint, yeah, it'll get you attention, but it's gonna get you the wrong kind of attention, including police investigations.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, though, in a lot of situations like that, back when they used to do it in the olden days, they would actually have the cops there to let them know, listen, we're going to do an angle. It's going to look real, but it's not. They would actually work with the police and let them know, hey, you're going to see something here. Don't arrest them. I mean, I've heard a lot of bookers back in the old territory days mention that they would do stuff and they would have to tell the local police there, listen, this is something that it's not real, so don't go arresting us because
well, I know it's not real. I know it's it's an event and stuff like that. But I just find it and it's obviously an angle that's going to hook a lot of people in to watch it because of the level of its controversy. But I just find it in bad taste, to be perfectly honest. Going back to what Bernard said, about like spatial abuse and stuff.
It is really bad taste.
I agree. It's bad taste. It's also just bad for the business because again, I don't believe that a man beating up a woman is good for the a lore, or I guess the lore of professional wrestling where you can see athletic competition. And what even pisses me off even more, actually, I say this semi-jokingly. My man JT Dunn, come on, bro, they're beating your girlfriend up. You know better. Show some empathy. He doesn't my friend doesn't show any empathy until after the high cross powerbomb, and until that point he goes over and checks on her and stuff like that. If I'm JT Dunn, I'm having people restrain me from jumping in the ring, or I'm working out with those guys where I jump in and I take something like that and they leave my ass laid out in the ring.
That's pretty much it.
JT Dunn looked like it was real, looked like he thought it was real for a moment, and maybe that was what he was going for, but that's not the reaction I would have hoped out of somebody like that.
If you're going to suspend disbelief for a moment, he would have been in there and he would have taken a lot of the damage for her before that even.
Exactly. He's right. Go on, Miguel.
Technically, if you're talking about Chris Dickinson, he actually did. I mean, I believe.
Well, no, I'm talking about Dunn. I was talking about Dunn, my friend, the guy who was standing there at ringside, and then he jumps into the ring to kind of check on her. You saw that guy in the video? I know that guy. I worked with him before. My company actually gave him his first shot outside of the small company he was working in Rhode Island. Small world of professional wrestling. It's just the way it is. I'm happy for all the success he's getting.
I want to go from that onto the next thing. We've got some breaking news here. There's been a lot of controversy going on about Bill DeMott. A few wrestlers have come out, or a slew of them, amidst the fact that a few guys have been defending him as well, like Chris Jericho. Bob Holly even basically said if the allegations are true, then he can't. He's like that's even too far. And this is the guy who bloodied one of the next guy's faces up. But to me,
I think the allegations that are brought across Bill DeMott are no laughing matter. Look, this is come on, nobody was going to go for that joke.
Humorous.
I mean, look, he seems to have a huge erection for breaking the balls of his recruits, but I hope they don't really find that humorous.
Oh,
okay, I'm done. I was done.
You've got some people who've never watched WCW in their lives scratching their heads right now.
I don't care. That joke wasn't for them. That was for the three people on this show.
Yeah.
And those that I watched on one of the pay-per-view where Hugh Morris became General Rection, and it's like I'm gonna go by my real name, Hugh G. Rection.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Thanks, Vince Russo.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. I was
2000 for you.
So then he needs to be sponsored by Brazzers.
Yes.
The only reason I even remember that whole I remember that whole stable is I was a fan of Major Guns.
Yeah, me too. And also Lance Storm had he had a funny story to talk about the fact when the Major Guns joined Team Canada, they asked him to put the bus over the Canadian Express, and Lance Storm basically went underneath the bus and got Major Guns to count to 3.
That's funny.
He made it look strong. Now, going back onto this, basically, DeMott there's allegations that have been put in place that DeMott has been forcing guys out of NXT, making them run drills if someone's injured. He would call them pussies. He would basically mistreat people. Someone's in the middle of a training session would say Billy Gunn, and then Bill would get involved and throw the guy out, so they wouldn't be able to basically train for the day. And it causes a lot of conflict to the fact where guys are being released, but not because they don't have the talent. It's because Bill DeMott is being a bitch about it. Now, this is part of the problem. The other is there are a whole huge list of allegations of what this guy has done to trainees, to the point of...
Yeah, it was like an HR memo got leaked or something like that got detailed in full, what was the accusations that were levied against him. They aren't very good things for someone to say, but given Bill DeMott's role, and I will kind of take the Jericho position on it, he's the guy that you want to have break your recruits. Yeah, okay, maybe he may have gone a little too extreme, calling a guy of an Arab descent, a terrorist, and telling him to go make bombs and stuff like that. Bill DeMott's not the guy to be there to be your friend, okay? He's the guy to prepare you for life in the WWE, teach you how to work the WWE style. Go on. What were we gonna say?
Here's the problem, though. Here's the big issue. Here's the big issue with Bill DeMott, though, is what makes him special in comparison to any other teacher you can have there. I've heard nothing.
He was given the job as head trainer in the WWE, so at the Performance Center. So I'm assuming it was his day-to-day job to oversee and ultimately him be the one responsible for everything that goes on there.
I understand that, but when you think of a lot of the other talents that they have signed in there, especially look at the Outlaws, for instance. I mean, a guy like a Billy Gunn or even a Road Dogg Jesse James could do Bill DeMott's job and would probably be a lot more not politically correct, but he wouldn't be in it for himself the way DeMott seems to. I've heard a lot of stories from people within the business, not just people who have been trained by DeMott, but people who have worked with DeMott. The guy's he's brutal, and he's unnecessarily brutal. I mean, there was a story I heard recently on Wrestling Super. They were talking about how Rusev had just come back from neck surgery, and Bill DeMott tried to pull a jersey off of him because it was a New York team that he didn't like. He basically went after the dude's neck. There were times when, people would be set up under the ropes, and he would actually, pull the rope back and snap it into their face to bust their bottom lip. There's a difference between friendly hazing and going in it just to make somebody smaller than you. And Bill DeMott, I've heard stories for
years. Did he ever
years.
suffer any penance for any of this acting? Because it's beyond
No.
unspoken.
No, in
like.
fact,
He was released.
he was
more than
basically
once.
promoted. Yeah.
He was released more than once because of this. The last time he was
Yeah.
released is because there were allegations that flew around about this. Then he was brought back, and everyone was like, "What the fuck? Why is he back there?" And he got promoted to head trainer because of his role in Tough Enough, and the fact he's pretty. He understands the way that the business was and how the old school it is. I'm going to point something out, which a lot of people are going to be annoyed, and I think if you work in the independents, then you probably know what I'm talking about. I've come from a wrestling background. I've come from the training. I've been through the training. I was stretched. The first day I came out of my first wrestling class, I couldn't move. The second day, I nearly broke my neck. The third day, I got to the point where I had a trainer nearly try and dislocate my shoulder. These are the dues that you pay in that time frame. In the old
To
time
toughen
frame.
you up, basically.
Yeah, they
basically
would.
say,
They
look,
would
do you
beat the
want
shit
this?
out
'Cause
of you, and if you wouldn't sell, they would make you sell. I came out with a black eye once because I didn't sell someone's forearm. I basically I took my lumps, I paid my dues, and I got the respect for it. But the problem is now times have changed. This isn't what professional wrestling was. And if you've got a developmental training system like the NXT system, where you've got homegrown talent like Enzo L'Amore, Rusev, guys who basically haven't really done much on the independents, they're not going to have that experience. So if you get Joe Public in there, and you've got someone like DeMott causing you a PR nightmare, then you're going to end up releasing the guy because you can't do that to people. The only guys that you can really do that to is the guys that have, guys like your Punks, like your Joes, guys who are currently in the WWE developmental system at the moment who have travelled. The guys who understand the Japanese Smash Mouth style, or understand lucha, or understand like the British European wrestling style, the catch wrestling style. They're the guys that understand this and have paid those dues. These guys are never going to pay those dues. If you want a WWE fed system, these guys will never pay it at all. So you can't sit there and get pissy with these guys for complaining because they don't know that world. This is the price you pay for having bodybuilders and professional football players and ballet dancers going to your developmental system, which means you're going to end up having to treat them with, kid gloves.
Not even kid gloves. I mean, there's a difference between being rough with the guy to prove a point in a positive way and doing it for yourself. And to me, like I said, going back, I've heard nothing but negative stories about Bill DeMott in terms of his teachings. I mean, this goes back to the Tough Enough days. It's just when you run a corporate system like that, you can't afford to have guys like this. And going back to what I said, if it was something where Bill DeMott had a history of making some of the biggest stars in the world, and you look at him and you're like, okay, Bill DeMott knows what he's talking about. He's built such and such, and he's built this guy and this guy from the start. He's an amazing teacher. But he's been dropped multiple times from the WWE's developmental system and come back. It's like, I can't say that there's any reason to keep him on if he's going to create that much negative flack. I mean, you could get a guy like a Tommy Dreamer, or even go back and try to see if you can get back Al Snow. Al Snow, I've heard nothing but good things about the way he teaches people, going back to the Tough Enough days. I mean, he was a guy who understood the teacher mentality in terms of, I got to be a little bit tough with them, but I'm also kind of a father figure in a sense. You got that vibe from Al Snow when he was teaching these guys. To me, it's just there's no reason to hold on to Bill DeMott. And honestly, a guy like him, I think in the modern era, just it doesn't work. It's not the territory days anymore. It is kind of a fast food kind of developmental territory in a sense. And it's just the system as is. And like I said, you can get anybody else to do it. It's just there's no reason to have somebody that toxic.
No, I agree, because it's a corporate company now. It's a publicly traded company. No publicly traded company wants a PR nightmare, and Bill DeMott at the moment is a PR nightmare. Doesn't matter how well his intentions are, the guy is basically a loose cannon that you need to get out of there. And it's the right thing that the WWE has done to resolve this situation by kind of saying, look, we're not going to fire you, but what we want you to do is resign. You know, you can go out with your head held high, but resign. You can't stay. And, you know, and that's exactly what they did. And now he's gone. The question is, who's going to replace him?
I think probably Billy Gunn moves up. I think Billy Gunn, I think, is the joint choice. You gotta have to go with somebody with obviously the polar opposite of DeMott. Someone who's not necessarily gonna go cuddle guys and, like, you know, baby him, but someone who's not gonna be, you know, overly abusive, I guess you could say.
How about Devon Dudley? Devon has run his own wrestling school.
Yeah, sure.
And he's-
Does he want to up and relocate to Florida and, you know, change his whole life around though? It's definitely someone coming from within, because the people that are in the Performance Center every day might not have the relationship with Devon Dudley, so it might be like a little bit harder to build that rapport. If you bring somebody in that there's already familiar with and they're already, you know, worked with before in the same regard, then yeah, it'll just be easier for everybody to get along with.
It will have to be someone that Triple H personally selects, because he's going to have to be the guy that kind of resolves,
fixes it. This is his baby. You know, the Performance Center. There's a problem in the Performance Center, and he's got to fix it. So
yeah.
So we should expect Kevin Nash to get that slot then.
now maybe that's somebody that could get it. Or if Billy Gunn moves up, you know, Kevin Nash is the.
Lesson one, guys. How to negotiate. I've got to go for a Tommy Tinkle.
Kevin Nash has a good
Okay, I yawned.
Rapport in terms of character development. I just don't think he's an overall well-rounded wrestler. So for me, it would have to be someone that you know can help teach these guys the fundamentals, rather than just look menacing. And no offense to Nash,
all right, guys.
he was good at doing power bombs.
Lesson one, I'm going to teach you guys how to do the hair flip. Next step, teach you how to do a sidewalk slam. That's 2 of my 6 moves, so class will be short today.
Oh, God. I'm trying so hard not to make a torn quad joke.
I tore my quad. I'm going to be out for a few months.
Calm down, boys.
Damn it, Brian!
I know we all went for the quad joke first, but, you know, one at a time.
I was saying I was trying so hard to not make one.
Me too.
I was going to make one, but then I tore my quad.
Oh,
God,
nice.
So yeah, let's go on to a bit more news and talk a little bit about, like, you know, what's going on currently in the world of professional wrestling before we hit our kayfabe news article for the week, of course. Now, we're seeing a kind of change and shift in WWE. For those who don't know, we've talked about this a little bit last week, but we never really went into detail. Brock Lesnar and Vince McMahon are currently at an impasse in terms, or as they would put it in English, it's impasse, in terms of the way that Brock Lesnar's contract has been dealt with by the WWE. Now, there's apparently been a backstage disagreement between him and Triple H on the renewal of his contract, which apparently he was going to renew, but they hadn't decided whether or not if that was going to happen or not. And there was a condition that Vince kind of slid in there through the back, where Lesnar kind of had a disagreement about it, and he walked out. Lesnar apparently is not going to be appearing on TV or anywhere until this has been resolved. But he will be appearing at WrestleMania to kind of pass the torch on to Reigns. Miguel, you haven't talked about this last week, so let's pass the mic, the kind of the baton to you. Especially over the fact that Lesnar appeared at UFC, shaking hands with Dana White. To kind of, it was his way of kind of throwing out a message to Vince and say, you know, look what I'm going to do. Do you think that they will come to terms and Lesnar will be able to stay with the company, or do you think he will work the remaining dates and then fuck off?
I think it's obvious that WWE has bitten off more than they can chew in terms of Brock Lesnar. And I mentioned this to other people. We were having a discussion about this. I've never felt like Brock Lesnar was ever worth the money that people say he is, at least in terms of WWE. And I think that in part is because WWE has seemingly done everything in their power, with the exception of last year, to severely underplay the guy. I almost feel like they're doing it to spite him. Because think about it, they brought this guy in 2012. He was the biggest star on pay-per-view. I mean, this is a guy who routinely did 1 million buys for UFC every pay-per-view he appeared on. I haven't seen any of that translate over to WWE. In terms of the main events that he's done for WWE, the pay-per-views, can you really point and tell me that they did even anywhere like half of that on those pay-per-views? I haven't heard anything about it. At the same time, though, WWE has seemingly gone out of their way, at least up until the match with The Undertaker, to downplay Brock Lesnar. I mean, he lost against John Cena in his first matchup back. He lost against Triple H at WrestleMania. He, the only win that I remember him getting, besides the disqualification win against the Big Show at the Royal Rumble, was against CM Punk. And that was at a time when everybody was beating CM Punk. So there was really no... nothing impressive about that.
He comes in, he beats you, and then what? Is he coming to the Raw the next night? No. Am I going to get my win back? No. Then why am I doing the job for this guy?
My point, though,
I'll owe you one.
Thank you, Nick. My point is, for what they're paying, and I got to think they're at least paying somewhere to like $1 million a year, at least. Like they're paying something that's at least close to 6 figures.
Half million an appearance.
$500,000 an appearance. There's no way he's bringing in anywhere close to what that's worth, in my opinion. And you know what? I think WWE in the long run is realizing it. I think that whole doing it to spite him, given the contract issues he had, is kind of worn off. And now they're stuck with having to pay this guy $500,000 when they're not really reaping any of the benefits. They got themselves into this.
The thing is, Miguel, the one major thing, and you said they got themselves into it because no one told Vince to transition from the pay-per-view format to the network. A lot of the reason why buys aren't happening now is because they're in a transitional period. The network
Not even. I highly doubt, even if they were on pay-per-view, that Brock would be doing 300,000 buys on pay-per-view. Because keep in mind, before they transitioned to the network, they were doing about maybe 250,000 buys on average for a pay-per-view, at least a B show. Given what Brock did for UFC, I don't think he would have even come close to even doubling that number. And that's in part because WWE downplayed him. If they had come out of the gate when he first came in and had him beat John Cena and had him beat every other big star they had, yes, eventually I think it would have built up and you would have had a mystique that probably would have brought in a solid 100,000 buys. I can't blame it on the network too much because perception is reality. And even coming in as UFC Brock, it was clear WWE were not going to make him UFC Brock. He was going to be WWE Brock. He was going to be a guy that was really no different than any other star. The only difference is he only makes an appearance once every 3 months. He's basically, he has seasonal, exactly. I think WWE would be
holiday.
Yeah, I wonder. I think on the one hand, WWE would kind of like to get rid of this guy because, like I said, $500,000 for an appearance when he's not really doing much is a lot. But at the same time, I think they probably might want to try to keep him just so that he doesn't go back to UFC. Because say what you want about UFC, they are a competition with WWE. They are an entertainment property. The UFC is more sports than entertainment, but they do overlap in fans, and I'm sure Vince would not want a big name star like Brock to go over there because make no mistake, the first pay-per-view Brock Lesnar does for UFC will hit 1 million buys just on name. He'll get 1 million buys even if he's fighting.
Still technically the bigger. I mean, WWE is still the bigger company, right? I'm assuming. Popularity-wise, I mean, I know they've got crossover fans, but is you actually starting to creep up on them?
UFC is starting to creep up, nowhere near in terms of business. WWE does have the better business model, in my opinion, but I think fan-wise, I think they have more. Although, with all the deals they're cutting with Reebok and the stuff with Fox, they're getting up there. I mean, they're probably neck and neck in different ways. But yeah, Brock did a big business for them, and he'll do big business for them again. If Vince doesn't want that to happen, he can try to hold on to it, but I think at this point he's done. He wants to wipe his hands of Brock Lesnar and just kind of save the money. He got his spite out. Now he can just throw it away. It's like a used condom. You know, you're done. You can toss it out.
He's using.
So you're saying it's time for him to be flushed?
Yeah.
I think this is the worst thing that anyone could do in terms of, because the problem is, if you piss Lesnar off, he will undersell your main event at Mania, and that's the problem. If he doesn't keep the monster happy, we are not going to see him at his A game at Mania. Look what he did with Bill Goldberg. Literally, look what he did with Bill Goldberg. It was
that was going to be a no-win situation regardless. I mean, Brock Lesnar's a great wrestler, but he was never a ring leader. You know, Brock Lesnar, same thing with Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg was not a bad wrestler, but both of those guys really needed guys in the ring to kind of lead them, at least at that point in their careers. And when you throw those guys out there and have them just kind of work with each other, I don't think they were able to carry a matchup each other. And when you also factor in the crowd reaction, because I've heard a lot of reports saying that the crowd reaction really did throw off their game. I mean, they just got Roman Reigns out there, you know. I can't blame. I get what you're saying, and yeah, going back to Roman Reigns, if that does happen and Brock does decide to sandbag him like that, it's going to be rough goings because he is coming in with everything against him in regards to the fans. And
someone who the crowd's kind of two ways about, to being someone who's going to be turned heel. And I talked a little bit about this in my Wrestle Ramblings, blog post. And I talked about the fact that you have Vince's idea of what a main eventer is. And we don't, and this is the thing, I don't, but there's only a few people that they've had that has been the company guy. You're looking at the Hulk Hogans, you're looking at the Bret Harts, you're looking at the Kevin Nashes, the Shawn Michaels, the John Cenas, the Rocks, the Austins, you know, even the Triple H's to a lesser extent, which I'll never call Triple H the guy. He was never the guy, you know. He was the guy to make the guy look strong. That's why when you position someone as the heel, that heel isn't the guy. There's only one exception of the heel being the guy in a company, and that guy would be Ric Flair. You know, because the whole company was built around Flair and his challengers. Do you know what I mean? But with stuff like this, it's a different situation. It's a way different scenario. And when I watched it and I was thinking about it, Vince tried to do a pattern. Like, you had Hulk Hogan, and then after Hogan, he brought like Bret Hart into that position because he was basically drug free. You know, the whole steroid trial happened. They needed someone who wasn't considered like big and masculine and stuff. But then he tried to slot Lex Luger in with the whole Lex Express, the slamming of Yokozuna, and then they realized they kind of cut the legs out from under him, because then they realized, if we go this route, the media's going to be up our ass still, because Vince was nearly going to go to jail over this whole situation. So they went back to Hart. They then tried with Kevin Nash and said, okay, he doesn't look kind of steroidal muscular. He's a big guy. He's still the ideal line of what we want. That failed because they tried to turn a heel into basically like a baby face, you know, a cornbread baby face. It didn't work, and the crowd turned on him. They moved away from that, so they went back to Hart again. Then from Hart was passed as Michaels. Michaels was very difficult to deal with. The buys didn't work as much for Michaels. He ended up turning heel. For people who don't know, Michaels is considered one of the best wrestlers in the industry, but he wasn't a consistent draw. And even he will tell you that. He didn't make the big money for the company that someone like Bret Hart made, because Bret Hart had Canada. You know, the Canadian wrestling fans respected him. And he was someone who the Canadians got behind a lot. Hence the reason why every time they went to Canada, they did a big gate. Wherever he went, his fans followed him. He had a huge ingrained fan base. Shawn Michaels didn't have that. Then, you know, you had guys who got themselves over. Austin got over on his own means. All consistency, Austin was a heel. He was never a face. And again, a lot of these guys got over organically They never had the Machine backing them until the Machine got behind them once they were over. John Cena had his own rapper gimmick. He was on the verge of being released, believe it or not. Vince didn't like him. Vince hated him.
Yep.
You know, and then he ended up basically, reinventing himself with his rapper gimmick. He got over. Then the Machine got behind him and then changed him into Hulk Hogan. You know, the whole fucking baby face, I love the military bullshit that he pushes out. You're
missing a certain gap before that. Who was the guy that they tried to push even before John Cena? That was going to be the guy for a little bit.
Yeah, that was Lesnar.
No, not well. Technically Lesnar, and Lesnar was over for a bit. I'm thinking Randy Orton. Randy Orton got the belt after WrestleMania 20. He got the World Heavyweight title. He beat some guy,
and again, the World Heavyweight title wasn't considered the main title. The WWE Championship was always considered it. The reason why I didn't clarify Orton, because Orton's run with the World Heavyweight Championship was destroyed as soon as Triple H got the belt back. They didn't even give Orton a chance.
Well, they tried.
Triple H hit the shovel.
Well, not even that. I think what was happening was at that time Batista was starting to get over, and as he started to get over more than Orton, they were like, because I remember they were actually thinking about putting the belt back on Orton. They were going to transition it back onto Orton in case he was able to get over, and then Batista got over at the time, and so they went with him, and he ended up main eventing one of the bigger WrestleManias out there, and that was a WrestleMania without a celebrity involvement. That was 21, I believe. He main evented that with Triple H. And yeah, he became a big star, but he was never really family friendly, so they kind of transitioned Cena into there when he started to get over.
But again, Batista was never over to the level that he was considered the man. And this is what the whole idea of the man is: someone who had that crossover appeal. Cena had it. Someone who could do like comic books and soundtracks. Cena had a rap album that went gold, and that's very, very hard to do even if you're an independent artist. Cena did it. He had merchandise sales that were flying off the counter because people loved his stuff. In all intents and purposes, John Cena was The Rock personified. They tried this with everyone else. I think the only other guy that kind of transitioned to that effect was Bret Hart. Bret Hart had that. Bret Hart was actually doing TV shows in Canada and the United States. Bret Hart was he was on the verge of actually retiring from his wrestling career to stick to acting full time until eventually he decided
he was going to do that great hit of a show, Lonesome Dove.
Yeah. And the end of the day, his character got real over, and then eventually the show got cancelled and Bret went back. The thing is, people don't get, there's Vince's idea who he feels is the company guy, and then there's everyone else. Bret and Austin were anomalies. Total anomalies. Shawn